Thank you to Neil and to the entire team that put this together. It's been incredible. It's an honor to be here. And I'm an epigenetic psychotherapist, and I became an epigenetic psychotherapist slowly after these major experiences that completely changed my life. And essentially, it's been kind of a powerful series of years of major awakenings and downloads, essentially, of the importance of understanding and recognize who is the human, what is the soul, and how we operate on this earth, on this plane. And essentially the laws that go along with that, and the laws that we're abiding by that as we connect deeper and deeper with nature. Every single year, it's as if the information becomes clearer and clearer and clearer as to the divine importance of our DNA. And this is why the understanding of how it functions, and essentially it being the foundation of the future in every area of the world, every area of the importance of pharmaceuticals, medicine in general, politics, and social structures of society will all be based essentially on a deep understanding of the information that we hold within our DNA soon. And as our society shifts towards this unity consciousness that we are all moving into, there is an awareness of this technology, of this organic technology that emerges from humans. And so what is so beautiful about this is that the human is understanding and learning how to master this physical vessel. The physical vessel that incarnates into this terrestrial realm at the moment of inception is actually encoded with all of the tools that it's required in order for it to transcend all of the limitations, not only of that organism, ourselves, but generations of trauma, generations of information that are held and encoded within the DNA. And this is part of the ascension and the way that we are remembering things, because it's always been this way, but our spiritual practice is very much a scientific one. And the sciences are going to merge with these natural understanding, the spiritual understanding, the metaphysical understanding, as the veil is being lifted from our understanding of this unknown. So I'm going to go into my presentation, and I can't wait to share with you. All right. Okay. So let's talk about what is happening with our holographic DNA. So holographic DNA, I became aware of this information as a result of going into hypnosis in 2017 in order to uncover deeper information about my contact experience. And essentially, I wanted to understand what was the role of the soul. And this began because, I was introduced to hybrid children, and I was shown that I was a parent to children that I had not recalled creating. However, when I began to recover my memory and when I began to review my life, I began to realize that I had many experiences of contact. What was the connection between the creation of this kind of life interdimensionally, and where does the soul play a role in that? And that began to take me into questions of our genetics, because how do we participate in the creation of another organism on another dimension? It is the genetic information, and first it was a very spiritual understanding that I was participating to the creation of another entity, another body, another human, not a human, but a hybrid. But then it went deeper into the understanding that there is no separation between our genetic coding and our soul. And that is a very powerful realization, that the unification point between the non-physical and the physical is something that is part of the alchemical ascension that the humans have the potential of accessing. And all of the information are things that of course, I channeled in my session, and I channeled this information in a very raw way in which, I've never read books on these topics. I've never studied these concepts before. And I was literally speaking terminology in words that I had never even come across. So it was a pure connection to a field of information that was absolutely possible and available through my own body. And this has shown me that we have a library, the Library of Alexandria, as they say, which was supposed to be the largest library in human history at the time, that held very powerful information about the structure of humanity and ancient wisdom that had to do with the biology, the sciences, the math, the medicine, and then the spiritual aspect of the man. Every range of the man was studied in depth. And that's because the union between science and spirituality. And so what we are understanding, and the memories that are being recovered now through the ascension process that we're going through as a human race, we see major activity in the sun. And this is an understanding, and I'm going to go deep into the explanation of that. But everything is participating in this process of ascension at this time. We are the vessels through which the ascension is anchored into this terrestrial realm. And so when we begin to understand how this physical body functions, and we are functioning not just in this physical dimension, we're not functioning only within the construct, but we're actually very, very active in many constructs that we are navigating in the astral plane. In fact, we are every night leaving our body and experiencing other dimensions in which we participate. And all of these dimensional layers that we are participating are encoded in our DNA. We access them as a result of the cultivation of our frequency, and that cultivation of the frequency is encoded in the DNA. So we're going to talk about several topics today, but we're going to talk about the light body in depth, understanding the biology and the spiritual understanding of the light body, because this is essential to your understanding of how to access alchemy. Alchemy is the transmutation of one form of energy to another, from a lower to a higher octave of a vibrational frequency. And this affects matter. And that's very important to understand the effect of the matter, which is essentially the effect on your physical vessel. The physical vessel is affected biologically, energetically, and in your environment as the center anchor of life force as it's being projected into this holographic construct. Now, we're also going to talk about sun activation of humanity. And the reason why is because we're entering into a new era. And every time that we enter into a new era, there is massive movements in the solar system. Why? Because the solar system is an organism of consciousness. And the central sun is a black hole. It is a portal, actually, that provides life force that is encoded with information that is extremely important for every organism and every organism's ascension. Or here's another way to look at the ascension. The proper aligning with the natural cyclical ascension of the entire system. We are an organism that exists as part of a greater organism, and that fractal nature is actually expressed in the quantum field as well as in the most massive expansion of the galaxies and universes that we share. And we're also going to talk about alchemical love and creation. So we are understanding that alchemy is actually occurring through the central heart of the body. And we're going to talk about how that alchemical process is functioned through the body. Let's talk about DNA. The activation of DNA is the product of alchemical transmutation of life force into a higher octave of creation. Now, what we're talking about is that our DNA, we have a basic 12-strand DNA, and we are utilizing the information. Only 2% of that DNA is what writes this complex, beautiful physical body. Every single mysterious system that we have that we still have yet to truly understand and comprehend. But as we begin to discover how the biology and how the deep systems of this body functions, we also uncover an awareness of the universe and the galaxies. There is a profound connection between the human organism and the universe, and the awareness that the human collective comes upon. The deeper that the human begins to know themselves, the more it becomes aware of the universal laws and the universal systems and how they function. So our sciences are going to be changing tremendously in the next 7 years. And the way that we see the concepts of spirituality and nature, and maintaining harmonious systems between human and natural balances, are also going to be more aligned and congruent. So this is part of understanding that we are cycling through many different cycles of creation. And in our universe, this information, this infinite potential, essentially your soul is infinite potential. That infinite potential is being self-organized in layers of information, and there are many ways to see that self-organized information. You can look at it, it's divided within 13 main houses of information, and those main houses of information can be seen as astrological signs. They can be seen, and of course at the moment of inception, there is essentially a photograph of the universe, the cosmos, and the current state of the planet Earth and its ancestral history that is encoded within the DNA of an organism. And this is very profound to understand, because it helps the human understand the lessons and the invitations for ascension that one human has in its human potential. It also can be defined as a purpose. And when I say purpose, I don't mean that you will go and become a healer or have a very specific directive. I mean that through your internal alchemy, the internal marriage, the alchemical marriage that occurs within your dualistic nature, is the key to the healing, which healing means becoming whole, to becoming the center of the universe of creation in your body, and to end the cycles of counter creation that exist within your genetic lineage through the ancestral bloodline. Okay, so every single human that is born and that is anchored into this terrestrial plane is holding one of these archetypal energies more so, and those are manifested forth as a result of all of the choices that your ancestors have made for many generations, that call forth a very specific vibrational frequency at this time to bring forward this lineage into alignment with the ascension of this collective universe. And we are ascending in levels of ascension, and we are constantly oscillating through these different archetypes and aspects of ourselves until we reunify all of the separation between all these parts, and essentially we enter into a higher state of pure consciousness. Okay, and so when we enter into this pure consciousness, we are literally accessing this primordial life force into creation, which means we manifest the life that we need. We enter into the highest octave of health in the body. We access our intuitive abilities, and we also have the ability to anchor information. We channel our interconnections with our genetic connections to our starseed lineages, and all of this information, this information that is readily available to the human, is available through the physical body. Now, in order to access these levels of information, there are key integrations that have to happen within the body. The human has to heal, and one of these are the main woundings of the archetypal manifestations that we have. Every single one of these archetypal overlays is holding on to specific frequencies that are needed to be alchemized. And every alchemization process causes an effect in the biology of the human, in the geometry of the human, and in their emotional state. Okay? Because the emotions are a bioelectrical charge, because we are bioelectrical organisms. I'll talk about that a little bit more for those of you that are not familiar with that concept. But because of our holographic nature, this system operates on the charges that are created through this conducive body, this bioelectrical system of creation. So every single emotion is a bioelectrical charge that is being input into the system for creation. Therefore, if your core belief systems, subconscious belief systems, are creating a specific charge of emotion into the system, that will be why you are experiencing what you're experiencing, both the expansions of those and also the limitations of those, the contractions of those. So we can experience a lot of suffering, or we can experience a lot of joy and creation. And everything is based on your core subconscious belief systems. We are healing collectively the human that mistrusts, and the kind of mistrust that we're healing is a very collective mistrust of this amnesia that we experience at the time of birth, where we forget that we are the all, that we are this infinite potential. And this is the reunification of the divine mother that is being healed. We experience the separation coming from the womb of the mother, experience that traumatic birth, and that concept of separation is one that we are healing in many layers subconsciously, because it is the manifestation in a fractal form of the separation of the source. Okay, so essentially, this is an illusion that is occurring through the terrestrial plane, through the birthing into the physical. But in reality, the healing of this is one of the most powerful for the human, because he begins to remember, it begins to remember that is actually the all. We also are healing the fear of love at this time. A lot of humans actually are not familiar with the feeling of love, in terms of the unconditional nature of that, and not an external projection, but an internal unconditional acceptance of the self. All of our shadows, the deepest shadows of the collective human race, we are still struggling to integrate as a part of us. But as we are working through this individually and collectively, every single human plays a role in sustaining collective harmony. So really, every single human is a mirror of the shadows that we still have yet to integrate within ourselves. And the human condition is also a mirror of that, because of this fractal nature of this universe. So we are healing also our creative wounds, which essentially is our sexual energy, the primordial energy that is the most powerful energy and most manipulated in this terrestrial plane. The lack of understanding of the role of sexuality in our spiritual ascension is one that we are going to be waking up from as we move into these next years of ascension. And it will change the way that we make love. In other words, we unite with our sacred divine partners in order to anchor souls into this plane. Because the way that we unite and the way that we understand love as a whole in our organism will anchor higher octaves of souls and the memory of souls, which is activated through the morphogenetic field. When we access higher bands of love in our body, we recover memory from the morphogenetic field. And that is done through the alchemization of our sexual energy. Moving from a state of lust into pure unconditional love for the self, and compassion essentially for all others. So that is a very higher state of creation that we want to embody this sexual energy, because sexual energy is our monetary exchange. It's all of our exchanges that we do with friends, family, colleagues. It is the exchange energy that we experience with every other entity and organism in this universe. And that's not just in your waking waking state, but also in your dream states as you navigate in the astral plane. The aliens and entities and star families and angelic realms and non-physical life force entities that you encounter are all a manifestation of how you hold your exchange energy. And of course, what you're exchanging will be a projection of what you're holding in the subconscious layers of your mind. So the human that heals the fear of their own sovereign power, which is something that we're healing, this is both the healing of ancestral memory of the divine feminine. So the witches that are being burned, right? All of the ancient wisdom of the cultivation of man in its true, complete form have been compartmentalized, suppressed. Concepts of sexual energy, for example, have been suppressed by the church and by many, many systems in our world that don't want that information out, because when the human understands how to create, they become sovereign in many areas of their creation. Also, we can grow food. Our connection with nature becomes very potent and unified. So this creation power and the empowerment of the human, not being power of affecting force or control over another, but a unified collective awareness. And that's something that emerges as the human trains the 0 point more and more in their body. And the 0 point is essentially existing in a state of non-judgmental separateness and compartmentalization of themselves and themselves as they fit in this world and the role that they play. Okay, so we are integrating. Every single human right now that is born is integrating whatever lessons you're going to, especially through this moon that we experienced. 2024 was an absolutely powerful year for ending karmic cycles. And if you are not ending the karmic cycles, what does it mean, karmic cycles? Karma is cause and effect. And the more we understand these laws of cause and effect, we begin to take responsibility of our creation and how we are manifesting and inputting into this system. Our creation is really based on these subconscious belief systems that we have. And those subconscious belief systems are inherited from our parents, from family. And we are waking up from the amnesia of understanding where we are, stuck in our energy, in our creation, in our belief system. So the ending of these cycles of parasitism within ourselves. Okay, so that's when we attack ourselves, when we are not understanding the love and the acceptance of this whole self. We become parasitic and we begin to externalize our energy. Everything is externalized. We are depletion. The human body operates in a centrifugal manner because we are vortices. Okay, our bodies are vortices. I'll talk about that in a second. But the transmutational process of gathering our energy from the external to becoming a generator, a conduit of life force, is essentially the key to beginning to access higher faculties of information. So our physical body is a most incredible work of art. It's the most incredible, complex system of wisdom and harmony that exists. The more that we understand how we function, and the way we need to learn that is by sitting in meditation and connecting with this vessel and understanding, through the silence and the stillness, understanding the natural flows of life as it moves through your body. We are activating our higher faculties by redirecting all of the depletion life force, all of the counter-creative, all of the external seeking. Every time we give our power away to external forces, people, control systems, political systems, pharmaceuticals, we are denying the self-regenerating system and technology that is available within this physical vessel. And the activation of these is merely by training the body to come into a still point, to begin to grow gray matter in the brain, which is the gray lining that surrounds the brain and also goes down into the cerebral cortex, down the spine. Your entire human vessel is essentially a conduit of bioelectrical energy because we are holographic in nature. So every single part of your brain is responsible for handling the information as it moves through your physical body. But the more that we come into contractive states of creation, into depletion of our life force, into fear states, angers, strong negative emotions for suspended amounts of time. Usually emotions are very short-lived for the human. They should be felt fully in their full expression, and from there gathering in observation the information necessary from every emotion, because emotions are tools of navigation, and they are the true system of quote-unquote survival, okay, that is natural to the human. And we have to utilize this system wisely to gather the important information of the emotions to help us navigate and discern. This discernment is a product of the integration of your emotional body and your intuitive higher self, the intuitive self that is providing broader perspectives of the situations in which you're experiencing from your whole body, because your whole body is experiencing everything, and we tend to forget that. We have very myopic, short visions of the experiences that we're having. So we begin to understand that every single part of our brain is actually working with us, and the more contracted states we come, we actually block the defense mechanism of this, the organic defense mechanism of this body, to provide us with wisdom through the intuitive body on how to navigate and respond experiences. The majority of human trauma is a result of being in the face of unknown circumstances. And they are unknown because most of our programming and our conditioning comes from very specific ways of looking and seeing the world. What our parents thought of emotions, how they held emotions, is all programmed in your body. It's programmed in your nervous system, in your muscle system, and essentially you are operating from there. So we are learning how to move through and activate the blockages of these contracted states of life force in the body, and to move them into an alchemical transmutation of release. The release is occurring through acknowledgement, the awareness, the stillness, and the transmutation, which is that once you are aware of the information necessary from the emotion, that you begin to alchemize into a proactive through the heart, okay? Because the heart allows you to understand the truth of the situation that you're experiencing. The majority of our suffering is based on illusions. It's based on the past. It's based on the future, potential future situations. The human simply does not exist in reality. And that, the concept of reality is really meant for an entire presentation in itself. But reality is something that is created in the 0 point. When we align in the absolute present moment, and we are absolutely present with our physical body, engaging in this physical realm, this is actually the point of true creation. And it's where you can access most truth. Because in that present moment, you have access to infinite amount of information that allows you to discern every single experience as you navigate it. However, the human exists mostly in the past and the future, really has no grasp on what is actually occurring in the present moment, because most of their behaviors are reactions based on programmed, preconceived ideas, concepts, belief systems. And this is the representation of karma. It's the representation of karmic cycles, and those are very profound ancestral cyclical patterns that we are repeating over and over for many generations. Right now, the human is breaking and ending many cyclical patterns and programs of generations of suffering. I want you to begin to observe What are the main themes of blockage that you have in your ancestral lineage? What are the main themes? Is it a poverty? And usually they are, linked with many areas, because we are multidimensional beings. We are multidimensional beings in such a way. However, the chakras that we have most overactive and underactive will define the perception of our reality. And what is actually occurring now is that we need to learn energetic hygiene to clear the limiting belief systems that we have stored within the body. Chakras are the endocrine system of the body. They are spheres within the body that provide the filters of what we are seeing, how we are seeing, both in the physical and non-physical dimensions.